How do we create nourishing relationships after narcissistic abuse, where we're loved, we're seen, we're heard, we're cherished, and we feel emotionally safe in them? I'm Marina J, and I'm so glad you're here. And let's kind of explore this because if you're somebody that has been in a lot of friendships where it's all about them and it's not about you, where you're there for them, and they are happy talking about their problems. They're happy bringing you into their world. Their problems become your problems, all of that. But every time you start to speak, they kind of drift away. You can feel their attention drifting away. You can feel they're not so interested. If you've had a lot of very disappointing relationships where you've been more invested in their well-being than they have in yours, where you are always available, you're loyal, and you've been burned by them. Maybe you've been used by them. Maybe you've been taken advantage of by them. And you realize, wait a minute, I'm making you important in my life, but I'm not important in your life. Now, we all want different levels of intimacy in our friendships, and some of you are going to want to have more emotional intimacy than, say, other people. And that can also be a mismatch as well. You might have found that you've wanted to get really real with people and really close with people, and they haven't been available. They haven't had the capacity, or they're just not available. So if this is you, you're not alone. It can feel, after narcissistic abuse, one of the main questions I hear from clients is it even possible? Do I even have, are there even friends out there that can do this? Because I don't know, I've never seen it. I've never had a friendship before that's genuine, that's real, that's reciprocal, that's reciprocated, right? Where it's like an equal exchange of love and support and joy and just all the things. And I've definitely had a lot of clients that have said to me, Marina, I don't even know if it's possible because I've never seen it. I've never seen it in the outside world, and I've never experienced it. So I'm here to tell you it is very possible. I went through the longest time wondering if it was possible as well, because what I used to find was that I would give people a lot of support. And when I needed the support, they just weren't there. They just weren't there at the other end of the phone. Or if they were there, they couldn't reciprocate in the way that I needed. So their needs were always met by me in the friendship, but my needs weren't met by them in the friendship. And if you're anything like me, you won't have big needs, right? The old me didn't have big needs. And it's not to say I'm super needy now, because I'm very self-managed. But most people after narcissistic abuse are very self-managed, right? Because you've had to be, right? You weren't receiving what you needed, right? Usually from your family of origin. And so you've learned to do a lot of things on your own, often the hardest parts of your life on your own. But for friends, you may have found that you're always the supported, right? So you're always the supporter and you're not the supported. So again, if this is you, right, you're not on your own, even if you are on your own right now. So this is what I see. And notice if this is you too. Have you withdrawn? Have you decided it's just easier to go it alone because you've been so burned, because you've been so disappointed and are now disillusioned with a lot of people? And you're like, you know what? I'm just going to do it on my own. I'm going to go it alone. And so you become the Lone Ranger. And when somebody beautiful like you becomes a Lone Ranger, life actually becomes tougher. You think it's easier, but it's actually tougher because you go through the hardest parts of your life on your own. And even if you are an incredible healer, you're somebody that can always heal and transform, you still need someone to talk to. We still need to be heard and seen and validated and acknowledged and loved and cherished. And it's amazing the energy and the life force that we get when we actually receive love from another person. Otherwise, we're always self-generating. It's always exhausting. So how do you take your walls down? If you've been burned and you're like, that's it, not doing friends anymore, and you've become the Lone Ranger, or you're still trying, but you're getting burned, how do you bring your walls down? And the thing is, we need to, because if we have the same boundaries that we have towards the toxic people, and we have them towards friendships, we're never going to be able to let them in to see us, to know if we can trust them. And so we need to bring our walls down. And if you can bring your walls down slowly and in a way that allows you to build your own library of self-trust, your own library of what your signs are that this person is good for you. Because usually, if you've come from an experience where you've always been gaslit, you can then gaslight yourself out of your own intuition that tells you this friend is right for you. This friend is a genuine friend. They're not going to use you. They're not going to discard you. They're not going to take advantage of you. They actually want to love you just the way you are. So bringing down your walls, a great questions to ask yourself to help you to bring down your walls are they invested in my well-being? You think about the people in your world and the friends that maybe you are beginning to make. Are they invested in your well-being? Right? Are they as invested in your well-being as you are in their well-being? Notice that for yourself as well. It's not a tit for tat thing. It's just noticing the energy, because often what happens after narcissistic abuse, people often fall into two camps. They're either very, very reticent to start up a new friendship again and they hold back, or they will literally jump right into that next relationship and be everything and do everything and go, yeah, 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 and then get burned. And the reason is that they're trying to have a sisterly type relationship or a family type relationship before it's actually been earned. So let's say that you had a narcissistic sister. What can happen is that you continue to look for that sister in the outside world in the form of a girlfriend, and you jump right into that relationship instead of starting it gently, because immediately you're like, great, I'm going to give everything to this woman. I'm going to show her how great I am. We're going to have a great time. And because you're doing all of that, you're not really taking in the signs as to, well, do I like her? What do I think of her? Does she make me laugh? Do I find her interesting? Is she somebody where I feel better after I walk away, or do I feel worse? So especially if you're somebody that's had narcissistic abuse, you will be used to, more than likely, right, in a general friendship where you're having a good time, the other person will walk away and feel good, and you might walk away and feel tired because you've overgiven, right? You've overgiven in that push to kind of make friends quickly, or that push to show them who you are, because you're so used to having to overgive to have any semblance of a relationship. Because remember, with narcissists, they require us to overgive, to overdo, to overcommit, to do all of it just to have some semblance of a very average relationship at best, or an abusive one at worst. So great questions to ask yourself. Are they as invested in my well-being as I am in theirs? And you'll just notice your different commitment level. There's one isn't right, one isn't wrong. It's just noticing what that is. Or is it still all about them, right? Is it also about me in this relationship? So it's not just about them. Do they ask you questions genuinely? And are they genuinely interested? And when you answer, are they genuinely listening? And will they ask more questions of that? This requires you to lower your walls down. If your walls are up, you're going to talk at people, you're going to perform, you're going to be fabulous, or you're going to be fun, or you're going to be helpful and valuable, but you're not going to allow that very natural two-way street of okay, I'm giving to you, but what am I receiving back? Am I receiving love? Am I receiving investment in my well-being? Are you genuinely interested in me? Or is it still all about what I can do for you? Is it still all about how I make you feel? And actually what you like is how I make you feel rather than me. So you don't love me for me, you love me for how I make you feel. Do you see the difference? And as we start to ask these questions, we start to come out of ourselves, because otherwise we're very concerned about how we land for other people, because we're so used to having to be so managed in the way that we come across so that we don't, rock the apple cart, so we continue walking on eggshells, right? Because that narcissist is so volatile that we've always got our eyes, right, outwards. This is asking you to stay in and really ask yourself, how do you affect me? How do I feel when I'm around you? Am I enjoying this? Or am I bored? Do I feel emotionally safe with them? So emotional safety is a big one. That means, do I feel safe to be completely me if I'm in a good mood? If I'm in a bad mood, I've got nothing to give. If I'm worried about something, or do I always have to be on my A game? Bringing your walls down is, how able am I to just be me in whatever mood I'm in? That is a game changer. When you can genuinely be you and read the signs, right? You will, because you'll start to really feel them. You can be, you know what? Because it's quicker. If you can just be you from the outset, you will weed the wrong people out like that. It'll be much, much quicker, rather than holding who you are in until maybe a year later, and then you find out they're not that interested in you, right? You're not really their kind of person, and vice versa. So you don't have to be on your A game. For you to feel emotionally safe, you're going to want to be with a friend who isn't going to judge you, who is going to accept you just as you are. And that begins with you not judging yourself for when you're feeling great on your A game and on your Z game. And also for you to accept yourself just the way you are, because when you do, you will set the precedent for a lot of these amazing friendships. Go slowly. People earn the right to be in your inner circle, and they earn the right through their actions and the way that they approach this friendship. Okay, these questions are really helpful to ask. Other questions are they adding to me or taking away? Right? Am I up or am I in deficit after being with them? A good friend will ring you just for you, not just for what they need. A good friend will check in with you. Hey, how are you? And not need to ask you because they've got stuff that they want to get out. They're genuinely thinking about you when they're not with you. Earning trust is really important. Do I feel energized after I walk away from them, right? Or do I feel flat, right? And part of it might be knowing your own patterns. If your walls are too up, you're going to feel flat when you walk away because you haven't actually let them in. And there is a risk, right? There's a risk that it'll all happen again. But we have to be willing to take the risk. And we can do it slowly. We can do it gently, just step by step, by step, by step, by step, to actually let them in and to not project that this person is going to be like all the others. So that means any level of bitterness that you've held or you have, and rightfully so, towards what's happened, that you don't look at this person now and you're like, yeah, I'm not even going to pick that up, because chances are I don't have the energy for it. Chances are they're going to ask me for something. Chances are it's all going to be about them. And that's another thing. If you think that you don't have the energy for a friendship, no, you have the energy for a friendship. You don't have the energy for a non-reciprocal relationship. So that's correct. But some of these people coming into our world are absolute gems. And so for you to create a nourishing friendship after narcissistic abuse is going to be for you to really be discerning and trust your own feelings without overriding it. So if you feel a bit off, you're off. If something feels off, it's off. If something feels great, it might make you nervous. It might make you scared. You might be like, holy fuck, this person actually is a great person, and it might freak you out a bit. Fantastic. Discernment is heart over mind, right? It's not you overthinking, it's you trusting how you feel and not undoing it with your brain saying, well, they're a nice person. Well, they're a work colleague. Well, whatever it is, whatever you would normally do to undo them. So when you ask these questions, last question that I think is great to ask is, do I look forward to seeing them? Right? You think about these people. Do you look forward to seeing them? It's a yes, no answer. That is a major, major flag as to whether this person needs to be more in your inner circle or pushed a bit further out, right? Actually, another question is, do I need boundaries with them? With healthy friends, I'll tell you now, you may need the odd boundary because you're coming from different directions, but you're not going to need boundaries. With healthy, genuine people, you actually don't need boundaries because they would never overstep them. Only the ones that were so specific, and then it's just a joy to tell them, and you're emotionally safe to tell them. So all this takes time to build. So you go at your pace. There's no rush. You take it as slow as you want. And I would always suggest going slower than you have before so that you're sure at every step. Building our own family after we've come from narcissistic families, toxic families, difficult families, right, is very, very important. So a lot of my clients have come from narcissistic families, and really in these friendships, what they're really looking for is true family. And you can do it. You can create beautiful friends around you that are like the mum you never had, that are like the dad you yearned for when you were young, that are like the brother that you would have loved to have had, and that are like the sister, that sisterly love that you never had. Because if you've had narcissists in your family, you've never had these relationships, right? Because they're always built on conditional love. You've never truly experienced real, loving, nourishing family, core family relationships. So I'm going to invite you to really look at it and go, yeah, I can rebuild my own version of my family and have a version of my mum, a version of my dad, right? Whoever it was, it might be one narcissist in your family. Hey, sometimes it's 3 or 4, right? Sometimes it can be a lot. Who are you looking for? And we get to, and when I say we, I mean all of us, right? All of you get to create true family, because true family isn't necessarily blood. True family are people that have your back, that want for you what you want for you, and that are going to love you forever, right? Because you're you. And you don't have to do anything or be anything or be better than you are. You just have to be you. And so to be able to recognize each other is just to take that wall down a little bit more so that they can recognize you and you can recognize them. I hope this really supports you in creating nourishing friendships. Yes, they're very possible. I have the most amazing friendships, and they've been built over time. And I did go through a period of thinking, are they even out there? Is it even possible? It actually is. When we do the work on ourselves and we keep the faith and we start to learn what our signs are, we start to really see who our true friends are so that we can build this family-like structure and support and love that we've never had before. And I'm speaking for all of you and all of my clients and anybody listening who's like, yeah, I am ready. Because going it alone, honestly, it's good for a portion of time. It's important during the healing journey. And then the next stage comes in where we're ready to be around human beings again. And we actually want to do it. So yeah, it's very, very possible. If you want extra support, I've got some free resources below. Come into my world and be loved and be supported and be celebrated just for who you are. All my love.